Yeah, what all we saw in chapter 1 and chapter 2 till now was that uh, we saw about, the first chapter actually we saw about 3R, then we saw about e-waste recycling, then we talked about what is green computing and the pathways of green computing. Then we talked about which are basically the problems, like the problems were toxins, then again power usage, then heat, and then e-waste. So all these were problems. Then we also talked about data centers. Then we also talk about carbon footprint. So that all what we discussed in chapter one. But I guess in chapter one we did discuss that there is a huge amount of power usage which is happening. So that is definitely a concern. Then in chapter two, we understood mostly about e-waste in the form of STEP, which is one of a thing by United Nations, and then we also understood what is Basel Action Network and Basel Convention, how they are working for the problem for e-waste, or we can say illegal import of e-waste. And then we saw how various nations are actually taking care of their e-waste problem, in which we saw also talked about something which we call it as hazardous substances. Okay. Now, so that's how they were like very very basic in nature. But yeah, now we can say talking about from chapter 3. Yeah, so from talking about chapter 3 onwards, okay, we will be actually looking into one by one problems, okay, that we have discussed. So we will see about minimizing power usage, that is in this chapter. In next chapter we will talk about cooling, and then in some chapter we will talk about how we can do efficient recycling, and so on. So the this chapter will focus on mostly how we can minimize the power usage, but it will talk mostly with respect to we can say computers, because we will be talking concerning about or taking into consideration, we can say data centers, or we can take into considerations big organizations where there is a huge amount of usage of computers. So minimizing power usage, we are talking with respect to, we can say more with respect to the computers and all those things. Definitely, uh, even going forward, we will also see that how we can minimize the power usage when we start making use of some appliances, okay, which are of some certifications, like we will see ahead that there are certain electrical appliances, okay, which are in a category of 5 star or something like that, and which we can use, and yeah, they will actually we can say minimize your power usage. But yeah, if we talk about this chapter, we are going to mostly understand that how we are going to minimize the power usage with respect to data centers, with respect to computers, and so on. Okay, so the first thing in the chapter, that is some examples are given. What if what if we use we can say all these things, okay, what if we start using, okay, all of them, then how we can have certain savings in terms of power. So what if we start using, we can say low power processors, high efficiency power supplies, some power management features. Instead of normal servers, we start using blade servers and virtualization. We make use of cooling best practices, variable speed pen drives, supplemental cooling. So these are certain things, okay, if we start using them, then we could have a huge power savings, okay. And definitely a power saving will help you to actually cut your power and the power related cost. Okay, so this is in a nutshell, okay, they are trying to tell us what we can use, like we can make use of low power processors, we can make use of high efficiency power supplies, which means the the place, okay, or at times, we say the board and the switches which is actually giving us the power. So at times if you make use of a low quality power supply, it actually consumes your more power. Instead you start making use of high efficiency power supplies, it will be actually helpful. Okay, we will definitely see what is low power processors. We are definitely going to also see what is power management feature. We are going to see what is blade servers. We are going to see server virtualizations, and this part probably will be covered into our next chapter, where we are going to talk about how cooling is actually going to help us to cut or we can say some better ways of cooling will actually help us to cut short our power supply. Okay, so yeah, so what this is, what this is what we have to see when we talk about this chapter. Okay, fine. So going forward, we just okay. So before we actually start considering about how we are going to save our power, the first thing that we are going to understand is how we can monitor the power usage. Because until and unless we are not aware about how much power we are using, or at which place we are using what amount of power, it will become very difficult for us to understand at how we can basically save our power. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. Okay, yeah, so we were talking about that if at all, let's say we have to understand the power usage, the first important thing turns out to be key. We have to monitor the power usage, which means we should know what power consumption is going on as of now. Now, monitoring power usage is actually going to be of a much importance when we talk about data centers, because then in data centers there will be huge amount of servers which will be actually working 24 by 7 and 365 days. So we can say there will be a huge amount of power supply power usage going over there. Now and the power requirement will again be 24 by 7. So to understand that how much power consumption is happening, and uh, where or what little bit thing which we can do by which actually certain amount of power we can save, or something we can cut short. So to do that, the first step, okay, is actually monitoring the power usage. Now monitoring the power usage is not something, okay, which we just do in data centers. Definitely, okay, even on a day-to-day basis, okay, in a small organization, or in a certain middle organization, or even at your home, okay, this is something which you can definitely do and understand. Because once you understand, okay, where your power usage is going on, okay, at which place it is going very high, which devices are actually consuming more power, at what amount of we can say time the power consumption goes high, and at what amount of time the power consumption goes low, will actually help you to take certain steps to do something which can actually maybe make your power usage more efficient. Okay, so let us understand. We are going to understand, basically we can say three different ways by which we can monitor the power usage. The first way is applicable to data center, because we will be talking about a huge setup. The second way we will be talking about to monitor the power usage into certain small organization, and the third way is something, okay, which we also can do even if at a home, or we want to let's say see our power requirement or something like that. Okay, so let's talk about the first way, which will actually help us to monitor the power usage, and this is something, okay, we are talking with respect to data centers. Okay, so let me read it and then I'll explain you. Servers. To monitor the power consumption yourself, you need to use power monitoring software. Without the knowledge of where you are starting, it is impossible to tell how much of a problem you have and to what degree your fixes are helping. Several vendors offer tools that help monitor the data center power. For instance, IBM's Power Executive provides the tools needed to monitor and manage power consumption accurately. It can measure real time power consumption and heat emission by individual server group or location. So the monitoring power usage, okay, here that we are talking about is we are talking about with respect to data center. That is the first thing. And the tool that we're trying to talk about is IBM Power Executive. Definitely, students, there are so many tools which exist which actually help you to do so, but this is something, okay, which is very, very, very famous when we talk about data centers. सो व्हाट इट इज़ हेल्पिंग अस, ओके, हमें क्या हेल्प मिल रहा है इससे, तो इससे हमें ये पता चल रहा है कि कितना इट एक्चुअली मॉनिटर्स एंड मैनेजेस द पावर कंजम्पशन, रियल टाइम पे कितना पावर कंजम्पशन हो रहा है और कितना हीट एमिशन हो रहा है बाय इंडिविजुअल server group, which means there will be so many, we can say, servers which will be stacked one upon the another. So that is a server group, or we can say from a particular location, if there is certain heat emission occurring or a huge power consumption is happening, all these things we will be able to, we can say, monitor from a very easy GUI, that is from very easy graphical user interface. Okay, there will be some administrator who could continuously keep on looking what is happening to the power, or how much power consumption is happening, okay, what is the consumption by the servers, okay, at different moment of time. So that will be able to help us. Now how, in that case, okay, how we will be able to manage our power consumption. So I'll go on to that point also. Okay, so this is about IBM's Power Executive. Now it allows for the optimization of energy use and lowering the power consumption when low utilization, which can actually provide to cost savings. These power monitoring and management capabilities are an important tool in achieving energy efficiency in the data center. Okay, so now let me give you an example. Let's say there is one server. Okay, uh, okay, there is let's say one server, and okay, the IBM Power Executive is continuously monitoring the server. While monitoring the server, okay, so while monitoring the server, it was being identified that somewhere at, we can say, from, let's say, 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. Okay, this particular server, okay, this particular server would be responsible for something into the data center. Okay, from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. Okay, server one is used, we can say, only 10%, which means server one is only working 10%. Okay, but let's say from let's say 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Okay, server one is actually working to 90%. Okay, which means it's working on to its full capacity. So now these are the something, okay, which would be identified. Now definitely if a server is working to its full capacity, okay, the power requirement of the server will also be very high. Okay, we can say more power consumption will happen. See, I think it's very similar. If you continuously keep your phone, okay, it's, see, if you do not use anything onto your phone for 1 hour, and for 1 hour, okay, if you use, let's say, 10 to 15 applications, or let's say even a single application which is very heavy, I hope you can understand how your battery is going to drain. Okay, instead, if for 1 hour, if it is not used, or it is used for very minimal purpose, so I think you would be able to relate this example which I'm trying to say. From 3 to 4 p.m, okay, only certain activities, or we can say only certain less amount of operations are going in server one. So the server one is used only 10%, whereas over here, okay, it is used 90%. Okay, so in that case, what could be done? So definitely if it is being used 90%, there is nothing, okay, there is no power management which we could actually do over here. But when it is used only 10%, here is something we can do certain kind of power management. So what we can do is, when there is 3 p.m. or to 4 p.m., we can actually give, okay, less power to this server. So let's say by default, any server is given certain amount of power. Just taking you an example, by default, okay, we are giving to server 100 kilovolt of power. Okay, but when it is 3 p.m. to 4 p.m., okay, we will just give the server 10 kilowatt of power, understanding that okay, it is not in use. So even with less power, okay, it can just run. And so this is just very like a naive example. Okay, these are not correct figures. I'm just trying to tell you, okay, what could we do. So you could just lower the power supply from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. Okay, because it is being monitored, because it is being analyzed that it is being worked only with 10%. Definitely, if then we come to know that on certain days, okay, that it may go up to 20%, then definitely, okay, we can actually also change or fluctuate, because these all we can dynamically do, control from a centralized place. So depending what is happening over there, we can do everything. And to do all these things, okay, efficiently, the software which actually will help us is the IBM Power Executive software. Okay, so this is going to be the great help. Now see, this is what the GUI of an IBM Power Executive software will look like. Okay, which will be so these actually it will be actually installed. So it is working as a hardware as well as software. As a hardware, this power management thing, okay, or we can say small devices will be attached to every server, which will be monitoring what power they are using. And we can say it also provides a GUI, because this GUI will actually make it very easy for an administrator to understand that how much power usage is actually happening. So this is you will see all your servers would be listed down over here. So different drives, let's say, or storage systems, whatever it is there into your data center. And then you will be able to see that in last 1 hour how much power was being there. So you could see actually there are so many things, but yeah, we are just seeing one example. So this is the power meter. Okay, this much of consumption is there on, let's say, this date at this time. Okay, this much of consumption was there, and at every hour, okay, or at every certain 10-15 minutes we would be able to see. Now when you see that there is a straight line, which means there is actually zero power rise over here, which means a static power consumption is happening. So you can actually understand so many things from this software, and then you can be able to apply some power management, or we can say certain things which could actually help you to lower your power usage. So this is the first way to monitor the power usage, that is making use of IBM Power Executive software, which will be mostly, we can say, used in data centers. Okay. The second way which is helpful to monitor your power usage is kilowatt. Okay, now why low cost option is written? Because IBM Power Executive software is extremely costly. Okay, the amount is in lakhs and lakhs and lakhs. Okay, and depending on bigger the size of your data center, certain we can say um, the software features and all those things, okay, it becomes more costly. But yeah, it's worth an investment when we are talking with respect to data center, because once we invest in this, okay, it can actually help you to save a huge amount of, we can say, huge amount of power, uh, which could basically help you to save more amount than you have invested into the future. Okay, so going forward, okay, yeah. So now the low cost option. Okay, so the low cost option is what the low cost option is what we say a kilowatt device. Okay, now the kilowatt device, as you can just see, okay, it will just come in $25, or I think these days it has even become, we can say more cheaper. Okay, over here also you can find it in a range of some 500 to 1000. So now what is this kilowatt? Okay, so I can just tell you, let's say if I'm running a laptop right now, and I just wanted to understand that how much power consumption is happening, I could just attach a kilowatt to my device. Okay, and then it will keep on showing me that how much power my device is using right now. Okay, so this will just help you to monitor, okay, nothing more. So you have to we can say manually monitor and understand, if let's if you want to do certain kind of analysis, then it has to be done by a manual approach. There is no software or nothing, it's a small hardware device which you can just use to it. But yeah, definitely, let's say if there are certain old machines that you are using, and if you're thinking to replace them, okay, then it's worth it to attach them with a kilowatt device and understand that how much power consumption they are doing. Because if they are consuming if an old at times you will see an old machine is consuming a power supply equivalent to 5 to 6 new devices. So then at that time, okay, it will be easy for the organization to make a decision to replace the old devices. So basically, we can say this will help you to understand what amount of power supply is happening in all the devices, and also it can help you to make some manual steps, okay, which can actually help you to save your power supply. Okay, so that is the next thing. Now, next device, or we can say it's not actually a device, it's again a software, okay, a normal software, which has to be mostly used with a manual approach, which is calculator. Now, it is very simple. Let's say I don't know how much energy my fan, okay, I'm sitting in a room and there is a fan, and I could see that the company of the fan is, let's say, Crompton Beach or something like that, okay, anything. We will never be able to know that how how much amount of energy it consumes. Or let's say there is a light, okay, and I just wanted to know that how much energy it consumes. Or let's say I have a laptop and I wanted to know. So let's say I didn't purchase a kilowatt device, but then I do have a laptop. I know from which let's say from which company it is, and I wanted to know what is the electricity power consumed by it. So there is a free worksheet, or we can say software, which is available, which is known as calculator. Now, how this software basically works, so in this software you are required to first of all feed which is the type of the device that you are using. Okay, after that, if you are aware about the manufacturer of that device, okay, you have to install that. Okay, so let's say if there is a device which is known as laptop, and let's say the manufacturer is Dell, something like that. Next, if you could enter, because this is something which is very important, hours of consumption, hours of, we can say consumption. So this is something once you enter, and then it will actually give you some value. Let's say it may give you, let's say 120 watts or something like this. So it will help you to basically, we can say calculate and understand, okay, how much of electricity power consumption is going on, or what you are spending. It will also help you to, we can say compare between two devices. Comparison could happen between, just an example is given to us, between uh, LCD and CRT. So let's say you have CRT monitors, and if you want to replace it with LCD, so I hope CRT are something, okay, which were not flat. So if you want to replace, but then you cannot take decisions. So it will help you to compare that what will be the power saving between both of them. And again, it will help you to compare for the same device, you can say for the same device, between two different brands. Yeah, I hope you can understand this, so that let's say if you want to, let's say, purchase something, okay, if you want to purchase an electronic device, and let's say that electronic device is available by brand 1 as well as brand 2. So it will help you to compare that if you go for brand 1, this will be the power consumption, and if you go for brand 2, this will be the power consumption. So we can say, but for all these things, okay, you have to manually open the software, manually feed all the information, and then definitely you can come out with certain reasons which will almost be, we can say, not accurate, but yeah, they will be approximate. Okay, so that is the idea behind what we call it as calculator. So Tech Republic offers a free worksheet to help you to determine the various costs to monitor the power supply. It allows you to do the following: determine how much you spend on electricity on power to your existing monitors, compare new LCD and CRT monitors to determine which is less expensive, compare different models of the same type of monitor to determine which one carries the lowest total cost when power is considered. Compare the same monitor under two different operating system different operating scenarios, not operating systems, comparing the monitor under two different scenarios. In the sense, let's say if your monitor is in sleep mode and if your monitor is not in sleep mode, then how much power difference or power savings, okay, is actually occurring. So all these things, okay, you can easily determine with the help of, we can say, calculator. So that is one of a free tool, a free software, okay, which is available, wherein you can feed certain information, and then you could come to know that how much amount of power savings is happening. Okay, so these are the three ways to monitor the power usage. We have looked into monitoring the power usage. The first one was IBM Power Executive. The second one is, we call it as kilowatt, and the third one is calculator. Okay, fine. So these are the ways to monitor your power. Okay, now we come to certain things, okay, which can actually help us to lower our power usage. So whatever things that we are looking right now is actually, we can say as uh, ways which can help to lower the power supply. Okay, so what all we can do so that we can actually lower our power supply. Okay, so the first aspect, okay, that we are going to understand is what we say data deduplication, which means by achieving data deduplication we can actually save our power. So now data deduplication is not simply like I have my data and I duplicate it somewhere. Okay, so I'll just uh, try to explain what exactly it looks like. Okay. So now when we talk about data deduplication, okay, there will be one server, okay, which we always call it as the main server. Okay, this main server will actually be working on a 24 by 7 basis, because then all we can say transactions or all the storage and processing, okay, keeps on continuously happening with the server on to a daily basis, on to a timely basis. Okay, so we can expect that this server is being used a lot. Okay, because all the we can say interactions, okay, which are basically happening, okay, they are happening with this server. Now there will be one another server, okay, uh, which will probably be known as backup server. Okay, and now what will happen in this backup server is, let's say, whatever data which is being generated into the main server will be actually stored into the backup server, so that, okay, because of some reason your main server is not working, that should be, all the data should be stored somewhere. So now what happens, so normally what happens, okay, so if let's say we do not have data deduplication, this is something which used to happen. What we supposed to do is, whatever, let's say today is, let's say, 3rd of February 2021, at 12 in night, okay, what all was generated in main server, okay, will just be duplicated and be stored into the backup server. But all these copies will also remain onto the main server, which means the main server is still loaded with so much of storage, and all the entries, okay, were also copied into the backup server. Okay, the same thing will happen on again and again and again and again on daily basis, keeping the main server already loaded. So this case was, which was happening. Okay, so though there was data deduplication, but then there was no actually power saved. Instead, the power consumption was becoming more high because the main server was being much more loaded, and because the main server was much more loaded, okay, the power requirement of the main server became higher and higher again, because everyone was, the customers or the consumers or everyone was interacting with the main server, and then it was actually becoming more and more bulky, the storage, the processing, and all that. Now, instead, when we talk about the technique, which is data deduplication, what we do is that whenever we copy certain things into the backup server, we tend to remove it from to the main server. Okay, but we wait for a few days. Okay, we see um, that if that certain amount of file is actually not being used into the main server, so in a day, let's say there will be, let's say, some amount of, just giving you an example, in a day in main server, let's say, generates 100 GB of data, but from there only 2 GB of data is something, okay, which the main server actually requires to be continued on to the next day, whereas another rest of the data is actually just of no use for the main server right now. So it just gets there into the backup server, and all those copies will get removed from the main server, making the main server less bulkier. And if your main server is less bulkier, it will can easily get connected to the network, the load will be less, the power consumption of the main server will actually go low, and there is no need for making the main server to be a very high efficient server, because if you make it as a very high efficient server, the power consumption will again go high. So we can make it as a low efficient server. We will see in a day whatever is happening, transfer more than 90% of the things to a backup server, which will definitely be a very high efficient server, but because it is not used daily, we don't have to worry about the power consumption over here. And then on daily basis, the main server will become much more less and less bulkier. So this is the idea behind what we call it as data deduplication. Okay, yeah. So there are two aspects of virtualization. One which you have already seen into the operating system, wherein you talk about that there will be a one physical server, and there will be so many virtual servers, or we can say virtual machines, which will be created. We can say inside that one physical server. Similarly, the another aspect could be, let's say there are so many old servers which are not being used, so we can just transfer or take all their processing power and storage and convert them into a single server, which will be actually considered as old servers virtualized on a single server. So now, rather than using all of these old servers, okay, so they are there actually, but no one is using them. So what we have done is we have made a single server, we have connected to all of them, and now indirectly people are using these old servers via this single server that we have connected. So that is another idea of virtualization. The virtualization simply says, okay, how you can maximize the use of any server, okay, that you are having. Okay, so definitely one way is that if you have a one big server which is having, let's say, high capacity, then why not to split it into virtual machines, okay, and give it to the users, or maybe put some different operating systems onto it. Another usage also could be, what if there are so many old servers which are available to us, and why not to take their space and take their processing power, combine them into one single server and give it for a usage. Okay, so all of these things will also help a lot into your power consumption. Okay, so this is another way by which we can have a power consumption. Okay, so we'll stop here, and then next topics we'll see into the next lecture.